I'm very excited to introduce tonight's first presenter, Chef Tracy Wilk. Tracy graduated from the University of Central Florida and was trained by Natural Gourmet Institute. She went on to work in the pastry department of ABC Kitchen and later became the executive pastry chef at David Burke Kitchen. Since 2018, Tracy has been teaching as the lead recreational instructor at the Institute of Culinary Education. As our world changed during COVID-19, Bake It Forward grew into a passion project and her first cookbook. Tracy, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me and welcome everyone. I'm excited to walk you through how to make your own mini cheesecakes at home. Feel free to ask any questions. I'm happy to do my best to answer. I love engaging in the kitchen, so hopefully you all find this fun and informative. And let's get started. So to start, the first thing we want to do is, and these are the cheesecakes that we're making today. So you can hopefully see them on this other screen that I have. I have two screens going for you guys to make it really nice and easy. So these are the mini cheesecakes, some strawberry compote on top. And I'm going to just switch my view over here for you guys so you can see how to start with our graham cracker crust. So I have graham cracker crumble right here in a bowl. All I did was I took 2 packets of those graham cracker cookies from the store, and I have a little bit of sugar. And Nikki also has the recipe on a link for everybody. So if you would like the actual recipes with the ingredients, you are welcome to it. It should be in the chat for everyone. And I'm just going to take this butter and stir this right around. And that's it for your crust. So you could use this for a full size. You can use this for a small cheesecake. I like doing the small ones because not only are they a little bit of a portion control, they're really nice for just if you want a little small bite or if you don't have a lot of space like most of us don't in New York City. So your crust should look kind of like wet sand, and that's what you're going for. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to do about a few tablespoons into each little mini tin. And then we're going to bake that at 350 for about 8 minutes. And while that's going, I'm going to get my cheesecake filling made. And then I'm also going to start my compote. And then that's really it. The cheesecake does need to sit ideally overnight. Or you could just do a few hours. So if you plan on being awake around 2 a.m., that would be a good time to enjoy as well. I'm going to just push this aside. And then I like to just press this down. And then once it's all pressed, it's going to go into the oven. And I like when the graham cracker goes up the side a little bit because I'm really big on texture. I think that's something that's really important in a high quality dessert. So this graham cracker crust gives you texture throughout every bite. So we're looking for something like this. And we're going to go into the oven for about 8 minutes. We're just looking for a little bit of color. While that is going, I'm going to get all my cheesecake ingredients ready to go. So for that, I have over here, I have 16 ounces of cream cheese that I already started to kind of mix, which I'm going to keep mixing. If you do not have a KitchenAid, it's okay. You can do it by hand. Just make sure it's really basically beat because we want to get this softened. And I've had this sitting out room temperature for now about 6 hours or so. So you really do want to let it soften. I have granulated sugar. I have a vanilla bean that I'm going to show everybody how to split and how to use it. I have 2 eggs and I have a little bit of sour cream. Really, really simple ingredients. Super easy to get at the store. For a vanilla bean, the easiest way to deal with it is actually to go right into the sugar with it, because your sugar will help you remove all this from your hands. And you don't need to use vanilla bean, but you can. They are expensive, so I personally would save my vanilla bean pods, and I would use them in either a syrup or a sugar, or you can actually make vanilla extract out of your pods. So there's a lot that you can do. And you can see this is on my hands, and that's why I'm gonna just run it through the sugar to release all of that vanilla seeds. Taking my sugar, and I'm going to pour it right into this. And I'm going to get that all combined. So you can see there, getting it all nice and mixed. So what's really important here is we want to make sure that we're scraping this all down, because I don't want any chunks. So you can see this is starting to get really nice and soft, and that is what we want. And that really helps because my cream cheese was sitting out. You can use a blender. You could use a blender, that would definitely work. To be honest, if you don't have a mixer, first of all, you could definitely use a hand mixer. That will be like no issue at all. This is great for a hand mixer. The second thing I would say is you can just do this by hand. Just make sure that your cream cheese is really soft. This machine isn't really doing anything that you can't do yourself. It's just working harder. So use your arms, get into it. Nothing wrong with that at all. You do not need it. Do you need the foil thing? So no, you can use paper also, and you can also spray your cups, but they might stick. So at your own caution, depending on how patient you are on that. So you can see here, really nice and soft cream cheese. That's what I want because I don't want to add too much air to my eggs. So I'm going to add ideally one at a time. Mixing, and then I'm adding my second one. And then believe it or not, our cheesecake mixture is actually almost done after this, which is crazy to me how fast it is. So I think people think that cheesecake is really hard. I think it's not really hard, and it's really delicious. And of course, in the spirit of what tonight and tomorrow is all about. You do want to make sure you're scraping down because those chunks are not what we want. I'm gonna actually let this keep going for about 2 to 3 more minutes, but I'm on low speed at this point because what I don't want to do is, again, I'm not looking to add too much air. That's probably the biggest trick of this whole thing. So right now is a perfect time to get cleaned up. As that's still mixing and your graham cracker mixture is still cooking. This is going to be for when my cheesecakes come out of the oven because That graham cracker crumble is going to be hot. Can you sub yogurt? That would work super well. That would be no issue if you want to use yogurt. Greek yogurt would work great. Mascarpone cheese would work great. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that sticks out to me, but you basically just want something that's creamy. And I think the tang does really well in this, so that's why I like it. And then I'm adding that right on top, and then we're just gonna mix until combined. That's what's really important here. That is it. You now have your cheesecake batter. If you had to, you could store this overnight as long as it's in a fridge. But the downside of that is it might get a little bit of a skin. So I do like, whenever possible, to bake it fresh, and that's what I recommend doing. But, you know, sometimes life gets in the way, and I understand that. Or I try to understand that. Some days I'm better at that than others. So I'm just going to set my KitchenAid aside, and that way we can get set up to bake our actual cheesecakes. This is my cheesecake batter. Hopefully you all can see that. I love seeing the vanilla beans in here, which is really why I use it. But you can also definitely just use vanilla extract. You could also use like lemon extract and lemon zest. You could fold chopped Oreos into here if you wanted to. You could do a Nutella swirl. Like, there's just lots of options here. And I'm going to use a pastry bag to fill this up really nice and clean. That way it doesn't go everywhere. Basically, it's just sour cream and cream cheese with the vanilla bean and sugar and 2 eggs. So the eggs are really important. Cheesecake is actually, if you're gonna like traditionally classify it, cheesecake is really like a cream cheese sweetened custard. So the 2 eggs, even though it doesn't seem like it's a lot, it is doing quite a bit. And that's what's making the filling not only like decadent and rich, it's also helping it set up. So it's really like a custard more than anything else. And that's one of the many reasons it has to sit overnight, or, you know, 3 to 4 hours minimum is what I would really say. It doesn't have to be exactly overnight. But that's the same thing with like creme brulee. Creme brulee is also an egg custard with traditionally heavy cream, sugar, and eggs. So the eggs are pretty important. Of course, there's totally vegan options out there, and you could do a vegan cream cheese, all that stuff. There's so many innovations in the vegan world now. So I'm not going to say that you have to use eggs, but I would say it's pretty common for a cheesecake. So now I have my little bag set up. I just find this easier than doing a scoop, but you could definitely do a scoop as well. I just find this a lot cleaner. And I have my prepared cheesecakes to show you guys what those look like when they should come out of the oven. Again, if anyone is just joining, we have the recipe for you as well. So that should be in the chat. And that way you can make it at home whenever you'd like. All right, these look perfect. So what am I looking for? 1, your smell is going to be huge on this because I can smell that they're starting to become done. 2, golden brown. My students in my full-time job working at the culinary school downtown, they're always asking, what is this supposed to look like? How do I tell when it's done? Golden brown and delicious, guys. So same thing right here. We're looking for golden brown and delicious. And that's what's really going on. Also, the graham crackers were already cooked And all we did to them was we added a little bit of sugar and we add a little bit of butter. So it's not like these need to be cooked. If you've ever used those graham cracker crusts that you get at the grocery store that they say no bake, it's the same thing. So we're just adding a little texture, a little crunch to these. Plus they're going to bake more with the cheesecake. I'm also going to lower my oven to about 300, give or take. I'm not super crazy about it. 300 to 325 is where I want it. I'm also not too upset personally if I get a little color on my cheesecake. I don't want too much, but if I get a little golden, I'm pretty calm. So using my little bag here, and you can use a Ziploc bag. You could also just use like a measuring cup would work great, like a little scoop. I'm gonna just fill these right up, and they are gonna grow a little bit. So I'm trying to not go all the way to the top, but pretty close to the top. So this recipe gives you basically exactly 12 cheesecakes, but you could also just do one like full-size pie. That would work out really well. Just make sure you adjust your baking time. It will take longer if you're doing a full-size version. The graham crackers should be about the same, maybe 10 to 12 minutes, but the custard, the cheesecake portion, will take closer to about probably like 40 minutes. So now that these are all in here, I'm going to take these and I'm going to put them in the oven for about 18 to 24 minutes now. And while those are going, I also wanted to make a homemade compote to top. So you can see the cheesecakes here, and those are chilled overnight. I made those yesterday actually. And then I have a little strawberry on top just because I think that cheesecake really needs it. So I'm using frozen berries for these, and I am intentionally using frozen berries. It's not berry season quite yet, but we're coming up to it, thank God, my favorite season. Just a little bit of sugar going in here. But frozen berries are fabulous. There's absolutely no reason not to use them. You're able to find them well priced, organic or not, whatever you prefer. And you can get like a really good deal on them, and they're going to be cooked anyways. So I don't want you always thinking that frozen fruits and vegetables are bad. It's a really good way to get high quality at a lower cost. And what I do a lot is during the summer, I'll go down to the green market. You can get your berries, and then when they start going bad before you use them all, you can 100% just freeze them. And then like you have your own little berries for you. So lots of options. I put one lime in here. I really like my food to taste balanced. So for me, using a lime really helps. You can also use lemon. I just happen to like strawberry and lime. That's just my preference. You do you, find what you like. So one lime is going in. A little lime juice. We have this. So I can move my camera over if you all want to the stove, but it's fairly straightforward. I'm going on like a medium heat over here. And I'm basically just going to cook this until it starts to thicken. There's no cornstarch, there's no pectin, nothing like that. It's really straightforward. I'm just cooking it. It's okay that it's a little bit loose. That is what I'm going for. So it kind of drips over the cheesecake. Do we have questions? Because right now we have about 20 minutes or so until the cheesecakes are done. So right now is a great time to throw some questions into the chat. Let me know what you're all thinking. Let me know if you've ever we have to keep it just to cheesecake. If you have baking questions, food questions, cooking, whatever you got, let me know. I can tell you guys about Bake It Forward, my first cookbook that I wrote. I can tell you guys about working in New York City restaurants. You let me know what kind of questions you have. I'll do my best to answer. How come you don't need the water bath? Great question. That's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. So you can use a water bath, but these little guys cook so fast, they just don't need it, which is one of my favorite reasons why I like the little guys. The water bath, all it does is basically it keeps the cooking even throughout. And because they're super little, they just don't need it for this size. I will say the water bath sometimes does prevent the cracking, not always like 50-50 shot. But since I'm putting compote on top of these, I'm like super calm about it either way. I use, yes, fresh fruit all the time, specifically when you can get really high quality berries or whatever you're looking for in season. Absolutely. I love going to the green market. I love, especially in the summertime when it's like super busy and there's flowers and there's honey and everything around that's New York State local. So definitely you could use fresh fruit. You can definitely do blueberries or bananas. You could do caramelized bananas and cook them with some caramel sauce. It'd be delicious, or brown butter or toffee, etc. That would be fabulous. Blueberries also, yes, the recipe that's in the drive, it specifically asks for, and that's just because the fruit sets up well, either strawberries or blueberries. So that would work really well. Same amount, 2 cups of berries, same deal, would be delicious. Pomegranate seeds are delicious. So are edible flowers. And I'm just giving this a stir. I'm checking in on this. And nutritional info, no idea. Don't got it. I'm sorry. I would say this is about the same as like a smaller size of cheesecake, or I would say like a half a piece, but like not one of those New York City giant pieces. The difference between New York style cheesecake versus Italian, there's basically like 3 main styles of cheesecake. Well, 4 actually. So there's like a Japanese style that's like a giant souffle. It's delicious. Lots of eggs that give it that fluffiness. I would say there's Italian, which is going to use either ricotta and or like mascarpone cheese, which is a little bit richer and creamier. New York is basically what I just showed you right here, which is a little bit of a denser cheesecake. And there is also this burnt cheesecake from Spain. Basque cheesecake, who just said it? Yes, Basque cheesecake. If you ever see it on a menu, get it. It's going to change your life. It is so good. Mix in some chocolate. Why not? Absolutely. I would mix in some melted chocolate. It would go great with this. Just make sure that your chocolate isn't too hot. For me, this cheesecake is already a little bit leaning towards sweet, but that's just my opinion. You can do whatever you want with that. So I think like a higher percentage dark chocolate would go really well, like a 65 to 70%. You could even do some swirls in there. It'd be fabulous. I would say no to using low fat or non-fat. I grew up in the time of all low fat or non-fat everything. And I just think that high fat is more delicious and richer and denser. And for something like this, eat the cheesecake and enjoy it. So of course, if you have a dietary restriction, that's a different ballgame. And I'm not here to preach, but I would say the flavor of the full fat cheesecake is going to be far superior. And I want you to enjoy it. And that doesn't mean you have to eat 17 of them, but you can eat one and enjoy it and, you know, embrace this amazing life we have. I also love that we have someone from Uruguay. That's amazing. Welcome. What time is it in Uruguay? You're ready to eat? Same. If you guys have any baking questions, stuff like that, please continue dropping them in because I love questions. But let's talk about for now how we tell when the cheesecake is done. Oh, it's 10 p.m. So like same as us. That's not exciting. You're 1 hour ahead of us. That's not too crazy. So for your cheesecake, so I want you guys to note that these were sitting in my fridge overnight, which is what I recommended. So they're going to sink. It's super, super normal. what's going to happen when they come out of the oven, which you'll see mine if you stay on the Zoom, but if not, that's fine. They're going to dome, and they're going to, maybe one or two of them might crack, which is fine again, because as they set or sink, you don't even see it anymore. Plus you're going to put compote on them. So all good in the hood. But you're going to see they dome, and you should be able to take a clean, dry finger, and you should be able to gently touch them, and it should not feel soft. It should feel just firm to the touch. That means they're cooked. That means they can get pulled out. That means they can come to room temperature. And then once they're fully room temperature, then you can put them in the fridge for like minimum of 3 hours. If you can wait, I understand. If not, there's always the freezer. Ideally, I would say 6 hours, or you can just do overnight, which is what I do. Substitute for graham crackers. Biscoff cookies would be fabulous. Oreo cookies would do really well. If possible, if you have the patience, I would try to remove the inside of your Oreos, but I understand that might not be, your style. They would still work. Biscoff, Oreos, vanilla wafers, anything like that will work. Anything that's like a crusty cookie. You could even take, let's just say if you had leftover cake, I'm not sure why you'd have leftover cake, but if you do, as long as it doesn't have frosting on it, you could crumble that cake up and toast it off in the oven to make like cake crumbs. And then you can have a vanilla cake crumb bottom of your cheesecake. So you have a lot of options. Just graham cracker. What I learned working now at a culinary school for quite a few years is when people eat cheesecake, they expect graham cracker. And who am I to disappoint? Great, Allie. You want to learn my book? I'm happy to share. So I live in New York City. I've been here for now about 11 years. And in the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, so it's March 2020 of last year, New York City was the height of the pandemic. I think everyone knows the feeling I'm talking about. And I really wanted to help. So I did not want to, though, leave my apartment. I wanted to stay as safe as possible for myself and for my family. So I put in a Facebook group, hey, I live in the city. I'm a chef, so like I know how to cook. It's not super weird. Would you guys, if I made cookies for the nurses or doctors right by NYU, does somebody have a contact there? Would people, would they take it? And I got so many comments on this Facebook post, people being like, yes, my cousin, my husband, my sister, my niece, etc. They work there, and that would really brighten their spirits. So I started baking, and I baked for about every day for about 3 months straight to thank our frontline workers. I dropped it off at grocery stores, at the firehouse, police station, hospitals. My friends helped out around the city. I received a ton of donations to help the movement keep growing. And I wrote a book all about that and what you can bake at home to bring joy to your neighbors as well. Gratefully, we are very much, I think, at the end or endish. We're like at the second half here. And I'm happily not baking every day for our frontline workers. But to me, the idea of Bake It Forward can live on for many more generations. And it's really the idea of doing a mitzvah for your community, and everyone can make a cookie for anyone. So that's what the book is about. Get it on Amazon. It's on my website, on my Instagram, all that stuff. So you can follow me on Instagram and see more about it. I'm at Chef Tracy Wilk. My website is Chef Tracy Wilk. I kept everything really consistent, so you can find me and be my friend. Baking definitely has love baked into it. Exactly. And for me, it's the way that I show love and gratitude. And it's really the idea that everyone can do it, no matter your skill level. I even have Rice Krispie treats in my book because I needed something that was easy to mass produce because I had so many Bake It Forward orders or requests. So it's not always serious baking, and that's okay. And also a portion of the proceeds are going to City Harvest, which helps those who are food insecure here in New York City, because I do believe that baking is love, but I also believe that baking is a privilege, and I recognize that. So I wanted to pay it forward. I'm gonna see how my cheesecakes are doing. Oh, they're looking good. This compote is looking delicious. I like the lime in it. I find it adds like an extra little bit of a zest. But if you want something a little bit more basic or just regular, lemon also does really well. Do we have any other questions that I can try to answer about anything, baking, life? I don't know how I can help you on life. When do you get a lick? I probably actually won't eat these. These will probably either go to school with me tomorrow for my students, or I'm at my mom's apartment and I'll bring them to her doorman maybe tomorrow morning. These probably will not be for me. Favorite thing to bake is cookies, always, because cookies bring happiness. And I think you could always use a chocolate chip cookie in your life. Do I do a cooking webinar? I don't not. I teach both. So I teach both cooking and baking, and even before COVID-19, but during COVID, I was doing it virtually. I teach mixology. So teach you how to make some craft cocktails. I do cooking, steak, pasta, pizza, baking. I do kids classes. Last summer, I did a bunch of kids camps virtually because kids needed to have something fun to do. So I do it all. But baking is like my love. All right, so your compote is going to end up looking something like this. And I like, and this is just my opinion, I like when you can still see the fruit in there. I think that's a lot better. So I like to take this, and then you need to let this cool. So if you were going to eat this right away, you could put it in your freezer or over ice. It will cool down pretty quickly in your fridge, but you do need to let this cool, and then it's going to firm up. And that way you get this on your cheesecakes, this nice, still kind of jiggly, not super set fruit. I don't want that. If I wanted jam, I would make jam and add pectin, but I'm not looking for jam. So I am just looking for basically cooked loose fruit. And you can also use this on top of vanilla ice cream. You could put it on like bread and butter. Lots of options for you with this compote here. I'm gonna just check these cheesecakes. Also, don't be afraid to open or rotate your oven when you need to. I try not to open my oven too much, but something I also always tell my students is remember the oven does not know it's being opened. And a lot of people get really fearful of opening the oven, but you can open the oven, just be quick and swift and intentional with your choices, but the oven does not know, but you don't want to reduce the oven temperature by like 30 degrees. So just try to go in quickly. So they have started to dome, which is a good sign, but not fully there yet. They probably have about 8 more minutes, I would say. But you know, soon. Barbara, my mom is a member of Temple, and I'm going to pronounce it wrong. I'm so sorry, but my mom is a member there, so she would love that. She's screaming it right now. I can hear her. So Barbara, that'd be great. My mom would be so proud. So my mom moved here about 3 or 4 years ago, and she just recently became a member of the Temple. She actually joined, I think, about 6 months before COVID. She would love that, Barbara. So definitely would do an event there. Hopefully we can have events in person soon. I think New York City is almost there. If there's any questions about cooking or baking, or I don't know what it's like to work in a crazy restaurant or culinary school, hit me. Happy to answer. Happy to talk food. Oh, I love that question, Jacob. Thanks. Good question. Important piece of advice I give my students. I would say if they want to work in the industry, um, that show up early, stay late, and work hard. And just, I would say for food in general, you have to do it for the heart or there's no purpose. You have to really want this, and it's hard and it's long hours, but it can be incredibly rewarding. I mean, I've been a part of people's engagements, weddings, first birthdays. So I feel like I've had a lot of fun moments with others through food.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hello.
What time do you start?
I'm about halfway through. The cheesecake's in the oven right now,
Oh,
but
sorry.
I'm
They
sorry?
They listed everything, but they never said the time, the exact times.
I can run you through what I did if that helps.
No, I don't want to bother you.
It's okay. It's not a bother. Don't worry. But also in the chat, we're going to drop the recipe. So you can also see that. But the cheesecakes are in the oven right now, but they should be out pretty soon, I believe. There's the recipe. So we just made a really simple graham cracker crust. And then I made a simple cheesecake batter. This one has vanilla beans, which you can see those brown speckles all throughout, which I love. I love when food looks like food. That's really important to me. And they're in the oven now. They should be out actually in probably less than about 5 minutes. And I'll show you what that looks like. And then we made our cheesecake and we can enjoy the rest of the evening, or you can enjoy it tomorrow. I'm gonna just remove the rest of my compote to a container so that way it can chill, because I do not want this hot. And I'm gonna let that cool before I put it into the fridge overnight. Everything's gonna go in the fridge overnight, which is what I recommend. Thanks, Barbara. Have a good night. Hope you learned something fun. Does it take longer to cook a big cheesecake? It does. The crust will not take much longer. Maybe the crust will take just a couple more minutes. But the actual cheesecake will take longer because you need those eggs to set. So if you're doing it like in a small pie pan, like a 9-inch, 3-inch height pie pan, it might take about 35 to 40 minutes. If you were doing deep dish, definitely longer. So it just depends on what you're doing. But I do like these little guys because I think they're perfect for they're perfect for COVID time because everyone has their own and there's no sharing, which I think that trend in terms of food, I do think that trend is here to stay for a long time. So I think these are perfect for COVID safety. Are there any food questions for those who are still making cheesecake with us? These done cheesecakes are going to go back into their little homes here, which I'm definitely going to share. I think these will go to my students tomorrow. We'll see. Maybe next year we can all share these in person, back to our regular traditions, we can hope. Just waiting for these guys to come out so I can show you that. And then hopefully you all can make cheesecake at home whenever you want. So good news is I can see they've domed, which is exactly what I'm looking for, is that dome that proves or shows me that the eggs have at least cooked, because the eggs are a little bit of leavener. They kind of puff a little bit. That's also how something like pâte works. So that's good. Now I'm just making sure that they're fully cooked through. And then, like I said, I'm going to let them chill room temperature, minimum of 30 minutes to let them cool to room temperature. And then they'll go in the fridge. For this time at night, they're going to go in the fridge overnight, but you could just give it a few hours if you wanted to. If anyone's just joining and has any questions about making cheesecake or baking or being a pastry chef in New York City, any of that, I'm happy to answer. So if you're just joining us, welcome. And let me know if you have any questions. You can just drop them in the chat and we're happy to answer. Favorite Passover recipe? I love matzah toffee. It's not something I had growing up as a kid, so I make it a lot now as an adult, and I love it. And it's so easy to make, and it's family friendly. I also love coconut macarons, but I prefer the store-bought ones. They are so nostalgic and weirdly delicious. When baking did not go as I expected, Jacob, I have too many stories for that. Many, 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 many fails in my life. You will always have more fails, but you just keep going and you make it again. I teach people from all levels. So if you've never boiled water, all the way to professional chefs have been in my class. And the reality is it's just food. So if it doesn't come out, you make it again. It's not a big deal. You can always order pizza. So, you know, it happens. I've had a lot of horror stories in the restaurant days, but I've also had a lot of wins. So plenty of times in baking did not go as expected. Favorite celebrity chef? Oh, celebrity chefs. I have to give the real answer because one of them is my friend. Zach Young wrote the foreword of my cookbook. We've worked together for too many years to count. He's also a member of the tribe, and he's on a ton of those like Food Network game shows. So I have to give him the shout out. Trying to think if there's anyone really fun I've met that was like awestruck. I will say favorite celebrity chef in general is probably Ina Garten because I just want to be her when I grow up. Because all she does is live in the Hamptons and make jam, which is exactly what I want my life to be. So, and Ina Garten came to the restaurant one day when I was working, and I was like, that's who I want to be when I grow up. Maybe one day. Alrighty, we have cheesecake, guys. We did it. So they are a little bit cracked on the top, which is exactly as expected. And you can see they domed. I can take a clean fingertip and just lightly tap them, and they just feel like perfect little pillows, which is exactly what we want. Super soft and creamy. You don't want to eat these right away. You want to let them fully cool down, and then you're going to fridge them for about 4 to 6 hours, and then you've made your own cheesecake. And you can eat it as you please. These came out perfect, and I will be sharing with others. And hopefully you all will as well. And hopefully you guys are inspired to make your own cheesecake at home as well. Do we have any other questions?